With a new website comes new policy changes for Games Workshop's retail partners. Plus, we're going to be talking about the shooting phase in the upcoming re-release of The Old World. All this and more in this week's Hobby News. My name's Angela and welcome to Hobby Night. I wanted to start today's episode talking about the new policy Games Workshop has for some of its retail partners. Because as we've gotten this brand new, absolutely horrific website from Games Workshop, so too has come some new policies for the retail partners that makes it kind of difficult for them to make some profits off of certain products when it comes to buying them for customers in their stores. And I think this is a really big problem. Now, if you go to your store and you ask them to get you a product off of the website and that product happens to have any of these 4 icons on it, then that retailer will not be able to get their 35 or 45% discount on the product with these labels. That means that limited edition codexes, the print-on-demand products, which seems to be a lot of the products with these labels, some of the specifically licensed product for Games Workshop, so like the things like the plushies and all of the holiday products, don't expect your retail stores to be able to order those because they're paying the exact same price that we are as consumers. And I don't think that is very right. Now, this isn't new to Games Workshop. It's not the first time that they put stuff on their website and made it so that stores can't actually buy them or get a discount on them. But I feel like they're increasing that amount, and I don't know how this is actually going to affect most local game stores. The article here over on SpikeyBits really implies that they think it might affect game stores really heavily, driving people away from buying at their friendly local game stores and going strictly to Games Workshop exclusively. And I don't know if that's 100% true, and when I saw this article, I wanted to reach out to one of the local stores that I buy from that I know carries Games Workshop and ask them whether or not they felt an impact from this new policy change. And so far, their answer is no. And in fact, some of the products that SpikeyBits is claiming might not have the discount applied to it, like for example, the Age of Sigmar Empires of Sigmar new limited edition codex, they were actually able to get their discount applied to. As you can see here from the screenshot, there's a discount being applied to the Battletome Cities of Sigmar limited edition book, which is the same cover that we saw in the SpikeyBits article. But this has about the same 35% discount that the store would have expected to see from the product, because this is one of the things that I specifically called out when talking to the store. I was like, yo, I know that I specifically have bought in limited edition codexes from you. Do you think this is going to impact you? And no, they really just didn't feel like it was. And I'm curious, at your friendly local game stores at home, do you think it's going to be impacting them, or do you think they're not going to see an impact on this? Because I have a theory that a lot of the products that Games Workshop is marking with these 4 symbols is specifically products that they already know consumers are going to go to them exclusively for anyways, like the officially licensed product, the print-on-demand product, and those kinds of things. Because, well, obviously, the stores aren't going to necessarily have those on hand at all times anyways, and a lot of stores don't like to buy those products anyways, even if they could, because they come in these plain white boxes that makes them really hard to sell when sitting on a shelf. So I am really intrigued to see whether or not you specifically think this will affect your individual FLGS, or whether or not you think they're not going to feel the impact on it whatsoever. Hey guys, just jumping into the video to remind you to hit that subscribe button and bell icon for notifications so you never miss future content on the channel. And if you're into the spicier side of the hobby, you can find a link to my OnlyFanatics down in the link tree below in the description. Now, let's go ahead and get back to the video. Last week, we talked about the movement phase for the upcoming re-release of Warhammer The Old World, and this week I want to talk about the shooting phase. And much like the movement phase, the shooting phase consists of 4 specific steps. The first of which is declaring your target, which is pretty straightforward. You want to make sure you're within range of the target, you want to make sure you can be able to see the target, but know that you can only fire upon the target once, no matter how many attacks you might have on your character's profile. And you can only fire upon 1 unit, unlike in Warhammer 40k where you can split your targets. This is, I think, a pretty big deal, but I do think it's going to be a lot of fun. And it also might mean that depending on your facing, some of the boys in your unit may not actually be able to hit anything, but don't worry, that's just part of how it works. The one thing that I will say when it comes to being able to hit more than one target, or at least firing more than once, there are a couple special rules that allow you to do that. Specifically, volley fire is a special rule that allows you to fire upon somebody more than once. And if you happen to be on top of a hill, there is a chance that the first row might also be able to fire a second time, but you still can't split your targets. Now, once you have actually declared your target, you're going to want to roll to hit. And this is where the old rules start to come back into play. And I think fans are going to be really excited because the old ballistic scores are back. They go from 1 to 10, and you can see the chart here on how things work. Now, the thing that I want to call out specifically is when you get to ballistic skill 6 or higher, you get the opportunity for a reroll if you happen to fail the first time. Because, well, let's be honest, you got a 2+ if you have a ballistic skill of 6 or higher, so the likelihood of you failing is probably pretty low. But if you happen to roll a critical fail, that dreadful one, then you do have the opportunity to re-roll it again and aim for that second number. So your ballistic skill is 6, not that great. If you happen to need a re-roll, you still need to roll a 6 to actually land the hit. But if you have a ballistic skill 10, man, you just really need to be rolling some 2s and just hope that you don't get that 1. Now, once you've hit, you're going to want to wound. And this is where the to wound chart comes back into play. Just look at it in all of its glory. It is majestic, and I am probably going to have a hard time memorizing it because back when even 40K had charts, I just always had a hard time memorizing the charts. But thankfully, it'll probably be available on hopefully the app, as well as just in the rulebook itself pretty readily. So I'll be able to reference it whenever I want. Once you have actually wounded, the opponent is going to have the opportunity, of course, to make a save. If they happen to save, good for them. That's really, really woeful for you, but lucky for them. If they don't, then of course you score your wound. And then the next step, the final step, is to remove casualties, which also might end up resulting in you needing to take a leadership role for those casualties. But if you don't, then you just have to remove your casualties and you get to move on. Now, one of the other things that Games Workshop teased when talking about the shooting phase is some of the magic that can happen in the shooting phase. Specifically, they called out Fireball here and Vortex of Chaos. These are 2 different types of magics that can be used in the shooting phase. One is specifically a magic missile, and the other is a magical vortex. Now, the magical vortex seems to be like the endless spells which stay on the board, which you might be familiar with in Age of Sigmar. And I really love seeing these. They can be very deadly, they can be very random, and sometimes they can even hit your own units, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. It's pretty freaking fantastic. Whereas the magic missile seems to be something that's a little bit more targeted. You choose a unit, and that is what that is going to hit if you're successful. I think seeing all these really cool rules come out from the old world is just awesome. Like, I am so ready for this game to be here, but we still have the combat phase to talk about. So more than likely next week, or whenever Games Workshop releases the rules preview for that, we'll be talking about that next. Cool Mini or Not has released a new trailer for their upcoming Zombicide title, DCeased, which will have a Kickstarter date at the end of it. So let's go ahead and take a look. Is it the end? Or is it just the beginning? Honestly, I imagine it's just the beginning because these Kickstarters tend to have a lot of add-ons, and I cannot wait to see what they actually have available, what characters we're going to end up getting. Who ultimately is going to end up being the non-zombied characters and the zombified supers? Because we know Superman's a zombie, and I am so ready for that. Oh, it does look so cool. And I really, really like the models in this game. Now, I love seeing who we're getting as a hero. And the fact that we're also getting Lex in, like, not Iron Man armor, because obviously Iron Man doesn't exist in this universe, but in essentially, like, Hulkbuster armor is what it feels like. I love it. It's so good. And it honestly, looking at this trailer, does feel very similar to what you might expect from pretty much any Zombicide game that you may have played from Cool Mini or Not in the past. Obviously, there's probably small changes here and there to thematically be specific to the DC universe, but overall, like, movement and combat probably is going to be roughly the same, which means that if you are familiar with these games, you can dive right in immediately and go up against, like, the badass villains. Well, I mean, they're heroes turned into zombies, which makes them now villains. But it's gonna be so cool. Also, I just can't get over that we're getting Lex as one of the heroes. I love when that happens in the comics, where he ends up being basically an anti-hero because he has to go up against Superman, who has been corrupted in some way or whatever. Like, there's something about the DC universe combined with Zombicide that I love so much more than I do the idea when they had combined Zombicide with the X-Men. Like, both of them are great, but for some reason, in my head, it works so much better within the DC universe, and this trailer just has me so excited for the game. And now, please, do tell us, when are you going to be coming available? Oh, that's right, today. Yes, you heard correctly. Starting today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or noon Pacific Standard Time, the Kickstarter for Zombicide DCeased will go live, and you can start throwing money at Cool Mini or Not to get your hands on all of those gorgeous DC miniatures to be able to play this game. I mean, just look at how cool all these characters are. Really great lineup, by the way. I just want to say, having a Lantern, having Hawkgirl, having Green Arrow, having a Flash, putting Lex in there as sort of an anti-hero in big chunky armor, having, of course, Batman and Wonder Woman, fantastic, and then Cyborg. Cyborg is like so cool. So I think they picked a perfect lineup for who is actually still alive and breathing and not turned into a zombie. And I can't wait to see what add-ons are going to be possible with the Kickstarter, because there's probably going to be some artist renditions actually, which could be really cool because they may end up getting like actual comic book artists who work for DC to do some of them. Who knows? I don't really know. I'm very excited for just checking out the Kickstarter, which I'm definitely going to be doing later today. Last but not least this week, I wanted to go ahead and let everybody know that today is the absolute last day that you can put in on the Gamefound campaign for Mini Wargaming's Ravaged Star game. There are a ton of really cool miniatures within this game, and it seems like it's a pretty awesome alternative war game, especially if you're a little bit tired with Games Workshop, or if you're just wanting to, say, maybe pick up some alternate models to run in your Games Workshop armies, which is what I did with the Gorkog faction from Ravaged Star. I think they're absolutely amazing. They make perfect alternates for Tyranids. You can see some of them here. So if that sounds very exciting to you, or maybe you want some alternate Votann, or maybe just some alternate Chaos Space Marines, well, Ravaged Star has some really good options, and today is the last day to get on the Gamefound campaign. Now, if you are worried and you're like, man, I just do not have the money to put in on pledge on any of these boxes for Ravaged Star, but I'm really interested in getting some of them, is there going to be an opportunity for late pledging for the game? And I have talked to Dave, and yes, there will be opportunities to put in late pledges. So if you can't make it today and put in, don't worry, you will have an opportunity here in the future to still late pledge and get your hands on certain products from the campaign. Do be looking forward to that, and let me know, have you already put in? Are you going to be getting some? Did you put in on the first campaign? And what do you think of Ravaged Star? And that has been it for this week in hobby news. Do let me know if you think the policy changes for Games Workshop are going to be affecting your personal friendly local game store, or if you think that it's not going to affect them whatsoever. I'm really curious about this, so I'd love to hear the discussion down in the comments below. Now, before I head out, I do want to give one final thank you to my patrons for making it so content like this can continue to happen. Without your guys' support, we would not be doing this, so thank you very much. And don't forget that YouTube members will be added to this list very soon, so if you'd like to help support the channel that way, feel free to join. I've been Angela, and I hope you have a wonderful hobby night.